I've recently started a day trading challenge where I'm attempting to take $2,000 and grow it into $10,000. So far, I've taken 4 trades and posted the live recordings to both YouTube and TikTok. But in this video, I want to slow things down and break down each of those trades individually. I'm going to be going over the setups, the entries, the exits, what went well, and what didn't. So, with that being said, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can follow along and learn what it takes to grow a small account. Alright, let's jump into the charts. Alright, jumping into our first trade here, we can see that the SPY had some weakness on this day, breaking through some of our key levels, and we were looking to see if we can try to get some more downside on this play. So I was waiting patiently for a retest on one of the key levels, and you can see that there was a slight retest at the 707 range, and that's where I decided to take my first position, buying in one contract on the 0 DTE 706 strike. So the reason why I wanted to buy this one was because you can see that our simple moving averages don't align for a bullish run, right? You have the 50 moving average above the 200 moving average, along with your VWAP, which is going to be acting as a level of resistance as well. So on top of our key levels and the simple moving averages, we can say that this is a pretty bearish setup, which brought me to believe that this was going to be a safe trade, an easy win, and this is where I decided to place around this time here. So we get in around 1 o'clock, and we see that the candles continue to show bullish signals, which kind of caught me off guard. So initially I got in at 158, and the contracts actually started to, the contract started to, or the price started to diminish pretty fast, pretty rapidly. So I was kind of in the thought process of adding more, averaging down, but I didn't really know if this was going to continue or not. Like I said, we were at some key areas here where it was possible that it was going to reject and then continue to the lower side, but it was really hard to kind of predict this. So I'm going to jump ahead here to see how this actually played out. Okay. So jumping ahead about 10-15 minutes, you can see that that key level of resistance at 707.36 broke through and was touching the VWAP and the 200 SMA. So this was not a great sign for me here, because we are seeing some bullish trend breaking through that resistance. We would ideally want to see some red candles, some rejection at this level, not a hold above or a break above even. So this is where I start to get a little worried, and I hesitate to average down my position. I was being patient to see if we were going to get some green, or if we were going to get some red candles, but that did not come through. We are seeing some bullish reaction in the market here, which is really interesting, and it's really confusing in the sense, based on what I was saying before with our lineup of the simple moving averages along with the VWAP, right? So we're going to be seeing a push towards that to see if we can hit 709, to see if we are going to get rejection maybe at that level. And then if so, I would then average down, or I would position myself by adding more to my position to average down this position to see if we can get a little bit of a profit off this trade. So that's kind of what I was doing in my thought process behind this trade, this original trade here. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to jump ahead again and see exactly how that played out. All right, so jumping ahead another 10-15 minutes, we can see that we did break through the VWAP and the 200 SMA, which is still showing confusion on my end based on, again, the lineup of the SMAs and the line and the whereabouts of the VWAP. So I was really shocked to see that we are still pushing above this area, even though we just had a huge sell-off down towards the 702 range. So this is a pretty big reaction based on that initial sell-off, and we're not getting that reaction that we wanted to the downside, where we were going to make lower lows. It looks like we were going to continue to push to the higher side, and this was where it got to be, in my mind, a point of no return, right? We're seeing that push past the original area of resistance. We're seeing it push past the VWAP. We're seeing it push past the 200 SMA, and now we're breaking past another key level at 709, and we're going to test the 50 simple moving average. So this is an area where you can just call the trade dead, but I decided to continue to hold based on my position, my sizing. There was really not much that I was going to be doing with this. I was down already the position was already too far gone to come back, right? I mean, there is still some time in the day for the sell-off to continue. If it were to drop, if there was any rejection up here, maybe we would get some rejection at the, at probably around the 710 range, but I don't see this coming back down towards the 706 range. So at this point, I decide that I'm going to just let this position go and call it an L for the first trade of the challenge here. So not the best start to the challenge. I think that my overall bias was correct. I just didn't get the market reaction that we originally thought was going to happen. I think that my thought process of this was correct. It was just the market was acting a little irrational this day, and we didn't get the initial normal reaction you would get in this type of setup. So just to recap real fast, you have this huge sell-off, breaking past some key levels. Our SMAs are aligned for a continuation to the downside. And we are having a reaction of the market to retest those levels. We don't get the rejection area here that we were looking for at 707. There was some a breakthrough of that key level, and then continuation to the upside. So if I was to take this trade again, what I would do in the second for this, my second attempt here would be I would wait for this reaction at the 707 range and confirm with either an upside down hammer or even two red candles back to back, and then I would look to take that short position. But perhaps I was a little too hasty on trying to position early in this position here for a downside continuation. I didn't wait for this to play out to see if we were going to get a breakthrough. I just assumed that with this major sell-off, we were going to just retest and then continue to the downside. So that was just something that I need to work on with patience, which is fine. This is just something that it does happen in the markets. You're not going to always see the markets act the way that you have in the past, right? There's going to be some anomalies. There's going to be some variance in the market there where it's going to be acting a little bit different from what you've seen in the past or what you're used to. So that's why it's important to be patient when you're taking trades and making sure that you're confirming, getting those confirmations in any way possible, whether that's through candles, whether that's through signals, what have you, right? So this is just one of those trades that it got the best of me. Luckily, I didn't position too big in this one, so there wasn't too much of a loss. So starting off the first trade, we were down about $160, bringing us below the initial watermark. Jumping into the second trade of the challenge, the SPY opened up pretty mellow, trading in between the zone of 709 and 711. So basically with this trade, I was waiting patiently to see if we were going to break above the 711 or below the 709 range for a continuation in either direction. I waited to see if the volume was going to pick up, and when I was looking at the strikes of 709 and 711, there seemed to be significantly more volume activity with the 711 strike prices, right? So for calls. So that's where I was kind of leaning more towards the bullish side of this trade, and we were starting to get a push towards that 50 SMA, as we can see here, for that continuation to the upside. So again, I didn't want to be too hasty with positioning too early where it was going to trick me out and bounce off of that 50 and then continue to the downside. So I wanted to see if I can just get a push up towards the 711 and have a price target for that with a rejection followed by a rejection. So I would just close out the position at the 711 range and just be done with the trading day. So this is where I decided to take a long position in the 711 call strike, and wanted to see exactly if we can get that continuation push towards that resistance area before offloading our position. So around this time is where I decided to buy in for 10 contracts at the 109 range, and we can see that there is a significant amount of pressure. We're seeing buying pressure that's holding above the VWAP or pushing above the VWAP and trying to push back above the 50 SMA. So we're going to jump ahead here a little bit and see exactly how that plays out. So jumping ahead about 10-15 minutes, you can see that we are getting some rejection at the 50 SMA, but we're also holding above the 200 SMA. So this is where I was going to be a little skeptical on offloading my position too early, and I wanted just to see how this trade would play out. I was in pretty heavy, and I wanted to make sure that I was managing this position correctly. So if we were to get a close below the 200 SMA to retest the 709, that's when I would start to get a little worried about this position, this position failing. However, we were getting candles to hold above the 200 SMA and pushing back above the VWAP area. So again, the VWAP did decide to hold, and we did see a green candle after green candle continuation pushing above that 50 SMA that we originally were looking at for a possible rejection off of that line. However, this proved to be bullish, and we are getting that continuation up towards the 711 range. So at this point, we are in at 109 on the contracts, and I decided to close this position out probably a little prematurely, I'll be honest, at 149. So we did make about a 40 cent profit, or $40 profit per share. So overall, this was a really good trade. And as I go forward, just 10 more minutes here, you can see exactly how that continued to go to the towards our key level of 711, and we could have probably profited more and gained a little bit more on this trade. However, it's one of those things where you don't want to get too greedy. Anything can happen, and it wasn't an ideal A+ setup. It was just something that I saw an opportunity on, so I wanted to capture that opportunity. We were holding the 200 SMA. We were breaking above the VWAP, and there was a huge possibility due to the volume that was showing on the options for 711 that there was going to be a continuation to the upside. So the bias to go long was a lot stronger for me than it was to go short at this point, and it proved to pay out. So we did get that push up towards the 711, and we were able to profit quite a bit on this smaller account based on that little move that we saw from just a bounce off of the 200 SMA up towards our key level of 711. Moving on to the third trade of the challenge, we are seeing some rejection at the 713 range, and we are seeing a push down towards the 711 range. However, I don't think that I'm going to try to do a retest off of a lower low to a continuation down towards the 711 range, just because we are seeing a bit of a support level here in the intra channel that we are seeing in the pre-market, right? So if we put a support level here, we're seeing that there's possibly there's possibly an intraday demand zone right at the 712 range, right? So you can see that there. And originally we see at market open, we see a bit of a bull run with a huge sell-off, and we see a recapture of that sell-off with this huge candle here. So there's something going on at this range here where I did not want to believe that there was going to be a continuation in the in a downward direction, right? That was not my initial bias when I was looking at this setup. I see that there is potentially a hold here. Since there is a hold pre-market here, we can go back in time here, even from the previous days. You're seeing there is something's happening around this range where once that breaks above that range, you are getting that huge influx of volume to continuation to the upside, right? So there's some hesitation for me to believe that this area is going to fail, and we can see that reaction kind of continued from the previous day, right? Once we broke above the 712 range, we had a bit of a hold. We have some wicking below it, but ultimately we close above it, and we're trying to push back towards and even above the 713 range, right? So when I see that happening in the intraday the next day, I believe that there is a possibility for a long position here. So the thing that where I'm really hesitant on is our moving averages aren't ideally set up the best way. Ideally, I like to have the SMAs below the VWAP area, but with this one, there is a lot of opportunity here with a parabolic move and maybe some influx of volume to come through to push us back above or even towards the 713 range. So I decided to position down towards the 712 area here, taking on some calls. I bought the 715 calls, and at this time they were worth about 33 cents, and we were able to position with about 40 overall. I bought in with 40 total contracts, so I'm basically all in at this point, and this was based on a average down, right? So originally I thought we were going to off this original move here to the upside, we had an initial reaction where I missed. I tried to play the bounce right here, but I didn't actually wait for this candle to fully close above the 713. So I got in a little bit high, and initially starting my position with 20 contracts. However, there was a bit of a sell-off after that that caused me to hold a losing position for a little bit. We were getting some market reaction where it was pushing or trying to push it back above the 713 range, so it was giving me some hope that we were going to continue in. Again, like I said, the SMAs were not ideal, but they weren't the worst in the sense of a continuation to the upside, right? We have the 50 below the 200, and the VWAP is, kind of the price is toggling between above the VWAP and below the VWAP. So this is not a terrible position to be in. However, we did get the push towards the original intraday key level at 712, and this is where I decided, well, if this is not the right time to add, then I don't know what is. So I decided to just go all in at this point, and it's obviously very risky. So this is not something that I would recommend to most traders. This is something that I usually will take on additional risk if I see the opportunity present itself, and this is one of those where I thought that this was a great opportunity to try to play off of this candle here that we saw, this inrush of volume, that maybe we can get a second surge of volume on this second attempt of a play here. Like, we're basically just playing that bounce, right? That retest, right? So this is the second retest off of that initial surge or parabolic move. Now we're going to see if we can get another reaction. So this is where I decided to take the risk, and I go all in with my account. So I'm sitting in with about $2,200 at this point in this position, and my average is about 55 cents on the contract. So I'm going to jump ahead here and see exactly how this played out. So jumping ahead here on the timeline, you can see that we did have a break below, but then it recovered our key level at 712. So that is a good sign, and it continued to hold. So this is going to be a continuation to the upside. We can see it based on this hammer candle testing that range again after we have this doji and then a green candle to follow. So now we're just waiting for the push above the VWAP and along with the 50 SMA. So once we get the push above the VWAP and the 50 SMA, we can say for sure that we are going to see the continuation push towards the 713 range and possibly even further above that. So with our strike at 715, we do have a bit of way to go still. So we're trying to make it up towards this range here. So it is quite a move still that we are waiting for, but everything is kind of aligning just as we originally thought it was going to happen. We were going to get that bounce off of that 712 range. So it seems to be holding pretty well. So we're just going to wait for volume to pick up and see what happens next. So jumping ahead a little bit here again, we're going to see exactly how that played out. So volume ended up coming through, pushing us past the VWAP and 50 SMA as we originally thought was going to happen after bouncing at the 712 range, right? So now we're pushing past the 713 range, which is a very bullish sign, and this is exactly what we want to see here, because if we can hold this now, we are definitely going to see that 15 range, 15 price range, and we can see if we go back in the pre-market that we were actually up towards that range here. So it is likely to test that in the regular session, since we did hit that in the pre-market, right? So ideally we want to be looking at exactly here. Look at this. So we do have a resistance area, key level, right? Key level here. And we can say that that's a key level because we have a break above, a clear break above, and then it comes down to retest. It's holding, right? We see that candle closing at that line. It breaks below, tries to test again, right? And it's kind of playing around on this key level here. So it breaks below it again. You see a wick above, kind of breaks down below, comes up, retests, stopping right there at that 715 price point, right? So it's just struggling a little bit there before we have the sell-off pre-market. So it's safe to say that we can kind of see that similar play occur in the regular session, right? So if we could hold the 713 range, we can definitely see a push towards the 15 range, and that is exactly what I was looking for when I placed my position or average down at the 712 range. So we're seeing that play out in real time here. So let's just skip ahead again and see if we can get a hold above the 713 range and a push towards the 715 range. All right, skipping ahead about an hour and a half, we can see that that line did actually hold at the 713 range. We got a break, retest here, a consolidation, right? A sell-off, retesting that range again, followed by a parabolic move up towards the 715 price range, right? So this is exactly what we wanted to see and we were waiting for when we originally averaged down at this 712 range, right? So this was an awesome read to see some volume come in originally here, a retest at that level. We did get a little bit liquidation here at with the break below that key level, but with the recapture and the retest here, we can confirm that this is going to continue to the upside, right? And then there is just more signals that confirm that we are going to continue in the up direction. So this was a very bullish trade overall, breaking through key levels, breaking past indicators that could have proved to be areas of intraday resistance. So after the break above the 713 key level, we can confirm, it is confirmed that the continuation towards the 715 range is likely. So this overall was a great trade, turned out to be a very profitable trade, and overall very happy with how I traded it. There were some psych outs, of course, with my initial buy-in at the beginning in early trading session here. However, I remained patient, reevaluated my bias, my position in the market, and averaged down accordingly based on the signals that were given to me. And this turned out to be a well-played, well-decided trade overall, giving me the W at the end of the day. All right, jumping into the last trade I'm going to cover in this video, the fourth trade taken of this challenge so far. This is going to be a short position I decided to take after I saw the SPY was failing above key levels, right? So we can see that from the previous trades that I was speaking of, we were kind of in a bull market, we were in a bull intraday session, but now we are showing some weakness going into these following days, right? So we were sitting above the 713 range, but now we're kind of falling below those key levels and breaking past the 711 range. And in this trade, I believe that we're going to be kind of retesting the 709 key level, right? And you can see that with looking at the day in between our trading session from Monday. This was a Tuesday, and then the trade that I took was a Wednesday here that we're getting prepped to take here. So you can see that there was a retest at the 709. We had a push back above towards the 712 range, kind of oscillated a little bit, traded a little bit in between this zone between 711 and 712. However, when the market opened up on this Wednesday morning, we did see some failure below that 711 range. And based on just the setup here, I think that we're going to see some continuation to the downside. So my initial bias during this day, going into this trading session, was to go short. So I waited for an entry. I wanted to see a pop retest towards the 711 range before positioning myself for a downside continuation here. So around the 10 o'clock time frame is where I decided to position myself in this position. This is because we are seeing a push back up towards VWAP. However, we're seeing, as you can see this candle unfold here, some weakness kind of forming into that trading session. So I'm going to skip ahead here, and we're going to see exactly how that played out. So again, this was a trade where I did get a little bit eager on my entry, I could have waited for the test at the key level exactly at the 711 mark, so which would be ideal in this situation, because we are seeing that the price is pushing back up towards that range, right? And the reason I positioned it so early was because I was looking at this candle in the pre-market, where I thought that, okay, well, if this looked like a intraday or a pre-market key level, well, it could be used as a key level in the regular session, right? And that's where I was kind of positioning myself here when I saw this candle going red. When I saw some selling pressure in this area here, so that's why I positioned myself and I got in. And the price point that I did get in was a strike of 708 with a average cost of 136 for 10 contracts, right? So I'm sitting at this in this position right now. It's obviously going against me, as we can see, with this huge green candle kind of just powerhousing up towards the key level of 711. However, I'm still kind of just biding my time at this point, right? So I don't know if I necessarily believe that we're going to continue to the up direction just based on the overall chart. If we zoom out a little bit, we can see that, you know, we are in a lower low pattern, right? We have a break here, right? Comes down, retests the 711, retest the 712, couldn't get it, fails below the 711, right? Retest, and then fails below the 710. So this is kind of where I'm not believing that the story that this is a true reversal, right? A true bullish reversal. So even though I didn't position the greatest, I still don't believe that this is going to this is going to be a trade that's going to go against me, right? And we can see that as this is playing out through the replay here, that it's still struggling to get above or hold above that 710 range, right? So again, I'm going to fast forward here and we're going to see exactly how this plays out based on the price action. Okay, so here we are. We did break above the price did break above the 711 range, and this is where I'm starting to question whether this is actually a reversal or if this is a bear trap or a bull trap, right? We are getting some volume coming through to push the price back above those key levels, and it looks like it's pretty strong, right? We are getting some pretty solid candles that look to be pretty promising for a continuation in the up direction. However, I don't necessarily believe this yet. We're getting a reverse hammer candle at the top here, right? This is super extended after a sell-off. So if this is true, if this is a true reversal, we're going to start seeing some green candles form above the 711 key area. So if we jump ahead a little bit here, we're going to see that that's actually not the case, right? So we did break above the 711 key area. However, we didn't hold above the 711 key area, and that's where it's very important to see this actually unfold, because a lot of traders get caught in this break here, right? They want to buy at this breakout here, and that's actually the incorrect way to trade this, right? We don't want to buy at this breakout point here, right? We want to wait for that retest at our key levels that are drawn up on the chart, because that's where you're going to really determine if this is a true break and continuation to the upside. So as you can see, there's a reverse hammer candle that formed here, and then a break back below the 711 range. And when we see this, we can say, okay, well, that was a false breakout. This is a bear trap. This is a bull trap, and this is going to continue to the downside. So this is where I decided to average down in my position again here, bringing my average down to about 130 range. I believe it was about like 129 was my average cost for this position here that I took in the 708 strike. So we're going to jump ahead again and see exactly how this played out. If this was true, if this was truly a bull trap, then this should be a excellent position, or this should be an excellent area here to average your position down, or even start a new position for the downside continuation. So jumping ahead here, we can see that is exactly how this unfolded, right? We had a break above the 711 range, creating a false breakout, a bull trap really, and a break back down below the 711 range with a retest on this green candle here, followed by a continued sell-off, right? So this turned out to be an excellent trade where we did position a little bit early, but we held our composure and we repositioned ourselves with a average down at the highs here before the sell-off continued, right? So this ended up coming back down to the 710 range, breaking below the 710. We can see that retest again in this area here, right? And it does not hold. We see like a little bit of a hold here, but ultimately it fails. And then we're going to continue to watch how this kind of continues to sell off pretty rapidly, actually, after this second fail, right below this level here, down towards the next key level of 709. So this turned out to be a fantastic trade where we profited pretty well, about 30 cents per or $30 per share held on this. So I was holding about 20 contracts on this, and we profited pretty well, even though the initial position wasn't the greatest. I held my composure, and I was able to reanalyze, reevaluate the position that I was really believed that was going to go to the downside, reevaluated that, and reposition myself to really just get that win in the books here, and was overall just happy with just how I conducted myself and just put my emotions aside, even though I was holding a losing position at first, right? So, and that's exactly what you have to do when you're trading. You can't always assume that you're going to jump in and see a profit right off the bat, right? There's going to be days where it's going to go against you, and you have to decide, do I close this out, or do I buckle down, do I average down and just wait it out, right? So you got to keep that in mind when you're trading, and it's a very emotional, it can be a very emotional endeavor, but the more that you trade, the easier it gets, right? You're going to see these different patterns in the market that are going to be more familiar with you, and you're going to get better with navigating the market and knowing when to either close it out or average down, right? So with that said, that's going to be the end of this video. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you guys if you made it this far in the video, and make sure you check out my other socials as well. I'll see you guys in the next update.